What up, y'all? How's it going? BenDeen here, and today I'm going to be trying out some North Korean cold noodles. It's called Pyongyang Naengmyeon in Korean, which Pyongyang is the capital of North Korea. I think in American English you call it Pyongyang, but and then Naengmyeon is cold noodles. So I got everything I need delivered to me for about $9. I put it in some bowls. Over here I got the broth. It might look like water to you, but this is like ice cold soup broth, I guess. And over here I have the noodles. These are made out of buckwheat, which is kind of a staple for naengmyeon, and then a bunch of other ingredients that I'm going to throw in there and mix in there as well. So I figured I would mix it on camera for you guys. This should be pretty interesting. I don't know if you can really tell, but this is a lot of noodles here. This is heavy, man. I think a lot of times you'll cut these, cut them up with scissors just so you're not eating super long strands of noodles, but I think that could be part of the fun as well. These noodles are typically pretty chewy, they're thin, and yeah, I don't really know what to compare these to, but they are pretty tasty. I've had regular naengmyeon a few times, and it's typically pretty tangy and very flavorful, but I hear North Korean or Pyongyang naengmyeon can be kind of bland. I hear that's how they kind of like their food, and this is kind of an old school dish here, so I'm not sure exactly what to expect out of this, but I mean, for $9, this is pretty hearty. This is a lot of noodles here. So over here we have various different. We have like green onions. We have looking like some kimchi in there, a little bit of meat in there as well. And this stuff is all cold as well. There's nothing hot going in here. So let me just pour this in there as well. And there we have it. North Korean noodles. I hear a lot of people also throw in some mustard sauce and vinegar to spice it up a little bit, but they didn't give me any, so I figure I don't really need it. If I did need it, they would have given it to me, I feel like. So alright, let's just go in for a bite. This could get a little bit, like, these are some pretty long strands, and I'm not a very good noodle eater, to be honest with you, but let's try this out. Not much smell coming off it, so I'm thinking it might be bland. Let's see. That is interesting. For one, I've always been kind of mystified by cold noodles in general. I've never had it until I came to Korea, and it's a very popular thing over here. So that right off the bat is kind of like, oh wow, that's a different mouthfeel, that's a different taste sensation. But I'm also getting a lot of unique, like I said, I've had regular Korean, like South Korean style, or just regular naengmyeon cold noodles before. But there are some big differences right off the bat. I think this would definitely benefit from some vinegar and mustard sauce for sure, because it is a little bit bland. I mean, that's how they like their food up there, I hear, so it's not like they didn't prepare this right. I think they did prepare this right. It's just kind of a food that's not bursting with flavor. I'm gonna try this meat. Get some noodles in there too. I wish there was more meat in there, but you know, it's an old school dish from back in the day, so it's probably, chances are there wasn't going to be much meat in here. This is probably like an old school delicacy. That meat was really good in there. They gave me some other kind of, looks like pork belly fat or something. The flavor of the noodles really come out. The buckwheat noodles, in my opinion, they're a little bit almost bitter. And overall, this dish almost has, this doesn't really sound appetizing, but like a tiny hint of almost a musty flavor. Or maybe that's just me. I'm not sure. I hear a lot of people do, even in South Korea, do love this dish. And stuff like this, it's always good on a hot summer day. It'll cool you down. But originally, actually, cold noodles in Korea, like this kind of thing, naengmyeon, mulnaengmyeon. I hear it was originally eaten in the winter. In Korea, because of, I'm not sure exactly why, maybe because of the season that buckwheat was harvested in, like in the fall, and then make the noodles for the winter. I heard that that people would, in the cold winter months, sit in a toasty warm house in a cold day and eat cold noodles. Which, I guess it makes sense in some kind of way. One thing I'll say is, this is so hearty. Like, look at all these noodles still left in here. There's a lot of food. A lot of times if you go to like a Korean barbecue place, you can get naengmyeon on the side, like as a side dish. And I think that really, those two things do really work well together. Actually, like salty, savory meat, hot, sizzling meat right off the grill, and then kind of a cold, sometimes tangy or refreshing noodle dish to it just contrasts with the meat, and they complement each other, the contrasting flavors actually. So right now I find myself craving some salty, hot, you know, Korean barbecue, some pork or something. What do you think about this? Not your style? Let me just try some of this broth on its own real quick. It's so weird. It tastes like a soup broth, like some saltiness in there, some savory, but it's ice cold. This ain't room temperature, and it might be hard to translate on the video, but this is like icy cold. Usually when I think of stuff that's really cold, I think of sweet things, you know, dessert, like ice cream, I guess, I don't know. But yeah, that's just a weird eating experience. One thing about the broth is that I kind of like, actually, is it doesn't taste too salty. Like a lot of soup broths out there are so packed with sodium, I feel like. And you know, I am a salt lover. I do love salt, so when I'm eating it, I'm like, man, this is good. But every spoonful I take, it's like, man, I must be ingesting so much salt right now. And this doesn't have that feeling. It doesn't give you that guilty feeling of eating just like a ton of salt. but it still has that salty flavor. I'm just gonna go for one more big bite here. I'm full. Like, this stuff really filled me up. I feel like this is enough easily for a couple people or one very hungry person. But this is pretty much the last of it here. I think the hardcore fans of this would just keep on drinking all the broth, just slurping it up. That's probably good enough for me. I'm full, man. This stuff really filled me up. Final thoughts. For me personally, this stuff is it's okay. It's definitely not my favorite, especially eating it by itself. Eating only this can get very repetitive. But I think pairing this up with something like some hot, salty, grilled Korean pork, I think that's where it would become very good for me personally. So I'm glad I tried this out. I couldn't imagine eating this, only this as a meal often. But you know, shout out to the people who do that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.